Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Well, we suspected it would come to this. Charles sent me the story. A York County woman in Pennsylvania faces a $200 ticket from state police because she went for a ride in her car by herself. This is from PennLive.com. Jan Murphy wrote the story. A 19-year-old York County woman went out for a drive just to get out of the house for a while on Sunday evening and was circling way back home when she was stopped by two state police cars. Two cars. They cited her for violating the stay-at-home order that took effect in York County just 2 days earlier. And she's now faced with what appears to be a ticket for about $227. This is for breaking the state's Disease Control and Prevention Act of 1955. She plans to plead not guilty and intends to take the matter up before a magisterial district judge if and when the courts reopen. The citation fails to actually mention a fine amount, but a trooper said the summary offense and the fine would be $25, which added together with the cost of the ticket comes out to $227 and a quarter. Schaefer said she saw the police cars parked and passed them, and the police started following her until they pulled her over. One of the troopers said they stopped her because her taillight was out. The trooper also mentioned that her window tint was too dark. She said the troopers asked her if she's under the influence of or on any drugs, which she said she wasn't. They then asked her to step from the car and shined a flashlight in her eyes, which of course is the universal test for drugs and or influence. They then told her she could get back in the car. And then they asked her, are you aware of the Stay at Home Act? And she said, I am aware of it, but didn't know that it pertained to just driving by one's self. She's out driving alone. The trooper told her he wasn't going to fine her for the window tint or the taillight, but you should be at home during this act that's in place right now and just get your taillight fixed. Once she got home, she checked it and her father checked it and the taillight's working fine, which leads us to the question about why they pulled her over, because there's a pretext there about the taillight being out. We've always heard the joke, yeah, your taillight's out, Turns out it wasn't out. So she said that when she's out driving by herself, she was alone in her car and had no intentions of getting out of the car. She simply got in her car, driving around, planning on coming back and getting out of her car when she got home. On the citation, it states that she failed to abide by the order of the governor and secretary of health issued to control the spread of a communicable disease, requiring the closure of all non-life-sustaining businesses as of 10 o'clock, March 19th. To wit, defendant states that she was going for a drive after the violation was in effect. While the governor's stay-at-home order is mandatory, state police spokesperson Ryan Tarkowski said voluntary compliance is preferred, and that's what they're focusing on. He said troopers have been encouraged to use contact with the public as an opportunity to reinforce the necessity to abide by stay-at-home orders. Now, Tarkowski also said, and this is a quote, troopers maintain discretion to warn or issue citations, and the decision is specific to the facts and circumstances of a particular encounter. Now, keep in mind that companies can also be cited for failing to suspend in-person operations of a business that is not life-sustaining. He said individuals may be cited for failing to abide by the stay-at-home order as well. Now, here's the interesting thing. Tarkowski said that this citation reported by this woman is the only one so far issued for violating the order. Now, interestingly, the governor's stay-at-home order took effect statewide a couple days ago. 2 warnings have been issued, but just this one ticket. Now, the woman who got the ticket said she felt she was within her rights to operate her car, and her father agrees. Father said, I think this is a little bit over the top, but here's the interesting thing. PennLive says, this should be a warning to all Pennsylvanians. But the interesting thing is that this order, which is in effect until April 30th, appears to have a little bit of an issue because while they're out stopping people like her and giving her a ticket, and again, she's the only one who's gotten a ticket, there are businesses that have not closed. The Pennsylvania State Police reported that no citations have been issued to non-life-sustaining businesses operating in violation of the order. Those have all gotten warnings. So a business that refuses to close gets a warning. Woman goes for a drive, gets a ticket. The laws that grant these powers include a 1955 law, which is the same one that the state's health secretary has cited in talking about this. Senator Kristen Phillips of York County, whose district includes the area where the woman was stopped, said the mixed messages the administration has sent as part of this are confounding. The governor needs to mean what he says and say what he means during these unprecedented times. If you're telling the public they will not be ticketed for violating the state home order, then, So here's the thing, and don't get me wrong. The law does not allow you to just go for a drive. The question is, do you get a $227 ticket for that, and is that fair? Likewise, the law says that if you're a non-essential business, you should be closed. If you're operating a business, flouting the law, as they say, shouldn't you be ticketed just as much as a 19-year-old woman went for a drive? And, that's a problem. And that obviously always happens where you have different officers and agencies and so on overseeing this kind of stuff. But, I would think in these days, what we're more concerned about is there is a rule that's been put in place. Most states have got it, not all, but most. And the rule is designed to encourage social distancing, to keep people from congregating, to keep people from interacting. That's the symbol for interacting. To keep people from getting in a position to where they can transmit things, right? And so if a woman's driving by herself, if the law says she shouldn't do that, she clearly shouldn't do that. But then the question is, if you really wanted to enforce the law, though, wouldn't you instead ticket the people who won't close their businesses? Because presumably that's where you're going to have a problem more so than this. Now, I will also tell you, I did a video where I talked about Michigan's law and how Michigan has different exceptions for things that you are allowed to do, even though you should generally stay at home. And the law has so many exceptions built into it that almost anybody can go anywhere, anytime they want, as long as they're just thinking and would have a decent excuse to explain why they're out. But I've not heard any cases of people in Michigan actually being ticketed for this. In fact, I've not even heard of anybody being pulled over for it. But generally speaking, they're just hoping that people take the spirit of this and follow it. I had a lot of people ask me about how constitutional this is, and I'll do a full video on this later on. Somebody sent me some really good stuff I've got to dig through. But generally speaking, in the past, emergency measures have been allowed under certain circumstances, and they're considered to be constitutional, especially in a state like Michigan, where our Constitution and our statutes specifically say, and the governor can do this under these circumstances. So people go, it's unconstitutional. Well, no, the constitutions of states can have their own constitutions, and the Constitution says you can have laws, and they have a law that says this. Now, if you want to, obviously, you could challenge that law and take it all the way up and get the U.S. Supreme Court to rule on it. But I have a feeling they're not going to say it's not unconstitutional. But it's another story for another day. The point I'm trying to make here is a woman went for a drive. She went for a drive by herself. She got a ticket for it. It cost her $227, or it might if it's not thrown out. But in the grand scheme of things, you got to look at the businesses that are getting warnings and ask yourself, is this all really proportional? Does this all make sense? So there you go, Charles. Thanks for the story. Stories out of PennLive.com. Questions or comments, put them below. Otherwise, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. You are not stuck where you are, unless you decide to be.